Recording 1A.
Well, I'm a keen athlete, so I try to have a healthy diet. I eat a lot of protein, especially fish and lean meat, and plenty of fruit and veg. That's no problem because I like those things, and I love crunchy salads. But I also need quite a lot of carbohydrate to give me energy, so I tuck into pasta and baked potatoes. I can't resist chocolate either. I've cut down a bit, but I don't think I'd want to cut it out of my diet completely. Anyway, because I do so much exercise, I don't ever put on weight. I have reduced my salt intake, though. I never put it on food, and I normally avoid junk food, which is full of salt and fat. I go to a training session 2 evenings a week with my local team. I also belong to a gym, and I go there 3 times a week. I've never smoked and don't drink much alcohol. What I do drink is lots of water. You really need it if you do a lot of exercise. And I also try and get 8 hours sleep a night. I find it makes a big difference. I think I'm fit, and being fit helps me deal with stress at work and at home.
Recording 1B. 1.
I got home from work on Thursday with a really awful sore throat. And when I looked in the mirror on Friday, I realised it was bright red and covered in spots. So I made an appointment at the local surgery. My doctor gave me a prescription for antibiotics. It cleared up quickly once I started taking them.
2.
Well, I felt really stupid the other day. I was trying to put up some bookshelves in my study. I had the hammer and nails out and, well, I suppose I just stopped concentrating for a minute and the next thing I knew I hit my thumb with a hammer. It really hurt. My wife took me up to the casualty department and they sent me for an x-ray. It wasn't broken, so they just put a bandage on it.
3.
I was out playing hockey. I'm in the college team. Anyway, I went for this ball at the same time as someone on the opposition. I fell over and there was this awful crack. I knew I'd broken something. I couldn't move. It hurt too much. They called an ambulance, put me on a stretcher, and took me up to A&E. My left arm will be in plaster for another 2 weeks, and then I have to start physiotherapy.
Recording 1C. 1.
I'm really out of sorts at the moment. I've been feeling tired and headachy all week.
2.
Me? I'm feeling as fit as a fiddle. I've been in good shape since I took up running on a regular basis.
3.
I've felt a bit off colour since yesterday. I think I'm going down with a cold.
4.
I'm fine, thanks. I've got loads of energy now. I always come back from a holiday feeling refreshed and ready for anything.
5.
I'm a bit under the weather at the moment. Too many late nights and not enough sleep, I think, so it serves me right.
Recording 2.
People often associate my country with cold and darkness, and it can, of course, get very cold. In winter, there isn't much light, and in some places, the sun doesn't rise for a whole 3 months. We have more hours of summer than other countries further south, but the weather is nowhere near as warm, even though the light is much more intense. The climate is generally dry, which makes it feel warmer. Minus 10 degrees centigrade, for instance, seems a very pleasant temperature to us. The temperature is mostly below freezing, except for short periods in the summer.
Recording 3A.
Yes, I definitely describe myself as musical. All the women in my family are, and we all play a musical instrument of some kind. I learnt to play the piano and the flute when I was at school, and I still play the flute in a local orchestra. My 2 sisters both sing in a choir, but that's something I've never done. I go to concerts a lot, mostly classical ones. But I like all kinds of music, and when I'm at home, I'm always listening to something. It's often pop or jazz, though, rather than classical. Music's an important part of my life, really.
Recording 3B. 1.
I've loved it ever since I first heard Buddy Holly and Elvis Presley. It's just great to dance to, because the rhythm's so strong and your feet just go with it. I think the electric guitars you got then were great, and I love the clothes from that era, the full skirts and tight jeans. The 50s had a great influence on all the music that follows.
2.
My friends think it's really strange that it's my favourite kind of music, but I love it, especially played on a saxophone. It always creates such an atmosphere, and the voices of some of the singers are so rich. It all goes back to the Black American traditions of New Orleans, but there are a lot of good artists in Britain today, and they're getting into the pop charts too.
3.
When I hear it, I always think Texas. The songs all tell a story, something everyone can relate to. There are things about love and splitting up and having a hard life. Johnny Cash is probably the most famous singer, but a lot of the others are women. The chorus is always important, so everyone can sing along. I enjoy singing to it when I'm driving.
4.
Well, my parents go along to a club once a month to listen to it. It's mostly just 1 or 2 people with a guitar singing, although you do get groups too. They seem to play a lot of very traditional songs from different regions that the audience know well and join in with. Sometimes you get quite old-fashioned instruments like accordions and harmonicas, and a few unusual things I don't know the name of.
Recording 3C. 1. 2. 3. 4. 5. 6. 7. 8. 9. 10. 11. 12. Recording 4A.
I've played football since I was 8 years old, and I'm now 15. I play in one of the best football teams in my region. My brother, who's 14, is also in the team. My aim is to play in the national team, the under-16s, of course. Last week, we were told that a coach was coming from the national team to watch us play, so that he could choose the 3 best players to play in a match against another country. The big moment arrived on Tuesday, and we played our match. Just before the final whistle, I scored a goal, and I knew we'd won the match. I looked over at the coach, and he nodded to me. The whistle blew, I knew I had played really well, and I was sure I would be chosen. I couldn't wait to hear my name called. I ran over to the other players, but I was so excited. I wasn't looking where I was going and bumped into someone. I fell badly and I broke my leg. I was taken to the hospital and I found out that the coach had chosen me, but now I can't play and my brother will take my place. The match is on Saturday.
Recording 4B.
On Saturday, I went to watch the match in a wheelchair. My brother played well and our team won, but I refused to clap and say well done to him. When we got home that evening, he gave me a big parcel. It was a football signed by some of our national players that he'd met after the match. He wanted me to have it. All I could think of was how badly I'd behaved.
Recording 4C. Listen to the recordings and choose the best answer, A, B or C. 1. You overhear a woman telling a friend about a conversation she had with her parents. How did her parents feel about her news? A. Furious. B. Astonished. C. Pleased.
So, what happened when you told your parents about Mark and you getting married?
Well, I was a bit nervous about it because I haven't known him that long. They've met him a few times, but they didn't seem to get on all that well because Mark is really shy, so he didn't say much. But I was surprised at their reaction. They said they were delighted, and it was what they'd expected after they saw us together. In fact, I'd expected them to be really angry.
Why?
Because we've decided to go and live in Canada, and it means I won't be able to finish the course I'm doing.
2. You hear a man talking about an activity holiday he went on. How did he feel at the end of it? A. Annoyed. B. Relieved. C. Upset.
I've just got back from an activity holiday that my daughter persuaded me to go on. She'd been on one and she was convinced I'd really enjoy it. Well, I didn't have very high expectations as it's not really my kind of thing, but I did enjoy some of it. I wasn't very good at most of the activities and I was just glad when it finished that I'd survived without having broken an arm or a leg. I think my daughter was a bit annoyed when I told her that, as she'd really thought it was the perfect holiday for me.
Now listen again. Recording 5A.
I can see a very old wall in the first picture and some paintings in a cave in the second. I think the cave paintings are much older than the wall. The wall was built about 2,000 years ago, and the paintings were done in prehistoric times, so they're really ancient. The Great Wall is in China. I've never been there, but I recognize the picture. The cave paintings are in France, and they go back to prehistoric times. You can see some animals.
Recording 5B.
What is the oldest thing you can see in your country? What is it and when was it made?
One of the oldest things you can see in my country, Egypt, is the Great Pyramid of Giza. People come from all over the world to see it. It was built about 4,500 years ago for a king called Khufu. It's absolutely enormous, and for centuries it was the tallest building in the world. There are lots of ancient things in my country, and many pyramids, but because of its size, this one is very famous.
Recording 6A.
For the next 2 weeks, Direct Books has a special offer just for you. We're giving you a unique opportunity. You can save up to 40% off selected books. So all you pay is the price of your books. Postage and packing is absolutely free in the UK for orders over £15. And if you spend over £50, you'll receive a free mystery gift worth at least £5. To take advantage of this offer, put your order in now. Don't forget, it's only for a limited period, the next 2 weeks. Your books will be promptly delivered direct to your door. We also offer a guarantee allowing you to return any book within 7 days, and we will give you a full refund. If you're looking for a particular book, please contact us, and if it's available, we'll get it to you.
Recording 6B.
This is Tanya's answer phone. I can't answer my phone now. Please leave me a message.
Tanya, this is Lara. Thanks for the message. I was hoping you'd pick up. I'll text you instead.
Tanya, this is Mum. You promised you'd keep your phone switched on today, but maybe it's on silent if you're at college. I'll ring later.
Hi, Tanya, it's Joe. I'm glad I dialed the right number this time. I got a strange man just now who hung up on me. We're all going into town tonight. Do you want to come? Ring me up if you do.
Hello, Tanya. It's Sarah. You're still not there. Can you ring me, please? I tried to phone you loads of times yesterday, but I couldn't get through because your phone was engaged all the time. Talk to you soon.
Hello, Tanya. This is Dad. I've had a great day walking. We've just got back. I tried to ring you from the top of the mountain, but my phone wouldn't work up there. I wish you could have come with me.
Tanya, it's Peter. Can you call me back, please? I've nearly run out of credit, so I can't talk for long. I'll get cut off. I'm going out at 6, so ring me soon.
Recording 7A. 1.
It's important to be cheerful and friendly in my job. I get on well with people, which is lucky because I spend most of my day talking to people. I'm on my feet all day, so the job is quite tiring. But I'm very enthusiastic about my work, and I'm quite ambitious. I'd like to own my own salon one day.
2.
I'm an energetic person and physically fit. I like to be doing things. I enjoy my job and don't mind working indoors or outdoors. I'm good with my hands and enjoy being creative. I sometimes design cupboards or shelves for people. I'm not really ambitious. I'm quite happy with what I'm doing.
Recording 7B. 1.
I used to work for an oil company, but I resigned because I hated travelling. I'm trying to change career, and I'm looking for work as a teacher.
2.
I do shifts. Some days and some nights.
3.
I was made redundant when the company closed down, and I've been unemployed ever since, although I've just applied for a job at the theatre.
4.
I had a long career in the police force. I retired when I was 55, and I'm getting a really good pension.
5.
I commute every day. The journey takes an hour each way, so I don't have time to do much after work.
6.
I do 4 long days, which is very hard work, but then I get 3 days off every week.
7.
I gave up my job as a chef a year ago because it was too stressful, and I'm still out of work. I'm interested in advertising, and I'm going to do some unpaid work experience soon in an agency near here.
8.
I was promoted last week, so that's very good for my career. The next step is manager.
Recording 8.
It's great that you're coming to visit us at last, Toby.
Yeah, after being pen friends for so long, it will be good to meet.
Sorry I can't come to the airport, but Sam, my brother, will be there. He's quite tall, and he's got straight blonde hair, quite thick and long. He's got blue eyes, and he wears glasses.
Okay, shouldn't be too difficult to spot him. Tell Sam I've got dark curly hair, it's quite short, and dark eyes. I'm quite slim and not very tall.
All right. You'll have your mobiles anyway. I'll give you his number.
Recording 9A. 1.
I find it's a really great thing to do if you really want to relax at the end of the day and de-stress. You don't need much equipment, just a mat and some old loose clothes. The exercises are very varied and you stretch a lot and really improve your balance. Our teacher is very good. She tries to give everyone individual advice so you can do some practice at home every day.
2.
I've been playing it since I was 12, and it's really quite demanding. The court is small and the ball is very fast, so you have to have quick reactions. If you don't move rapidly, you can end up being hit by the ball or running into your opponent or his racket. I've got a black eye several times, but I love it. I find it really exhilarating.
3.
I've always loved team sports, and this really is one of the best. There's a lot of running up and down involved, so you get fit, but it also needs a lot of skill to use your stick well when you pass the ball and to tackle your opponents. And it's a great feeling when you score a goal.
Recording 9B.
Well, in the first picture I can see some runners at the end of a race, and in the second picture I can see a hockey match. I think a runner has just won the race. The two hockey teams are in the middle of a match, and I think one side is going to score a goal. The runner is wearing a t-shirt without sleeves and some shorts and trainers. The hockey team are wearing short-sleeved t-shirts and shorts. You don't need special equipment for running, just yourself and lots of training. For hockey you need a sort of stick and a ball. Running is for one person and hockey is a game for a team. That's the biggest difference. A running race can be very quick unless it's a marathon, and a hockey game goes on for about an hour, I think. In my opinion, being a runner can be quite lonely, and playing in any team like hockey is more fun. I've never played hockey, but I have done some running. That's another difference for me.
Recording 10A. 1.
I know it's silly, but I fell out with Mike over money. I lent him some and he never gave it back. There was an argument and we haven't spoken to each other for 3 months. I know I should get in touch with him to make up because we were very close friends. In fact, he was my best friend and we told each other everything.
2.
My cousin introduced me to Francesca. The moment I saw her, I fell in love with her. I don't know how she feels about me. We spent the whole evening chatting, and we got on well together, but I haven't seen her since. That was 3 days and 4 hours ago. I'd really like to get to know her, but she doesn't answer her phone.
3.
I have a good friendship with Jasmine. Our fathers worked together and were old friends, so Jasmine and I became good friends and we used to play together. After we both got married, we lost touch for a while, but then my brother had a party and invited us both, and we remembered how much we enjoyed each other's company. So we make sure we keep in touch now. We phone each other every week.
4.
I don't make friends easily, but when I do make a friend, we usually become close. Petra was in the same class as me at college last year, and we sometimes had lunch together. We discovered we had things in common, like we both enjoy films. So we've been to the cinema together a few times.
Now listen again. Recording 10B.
My family are the most important people in my life because I know they will always be there if I need them. We do all argue sometimes, but mostly we get on well together and enjoy each other's company. My friends are also important. Most of my friends like doing the same things as me: shopping, watching TV and films. A few of my friends are in the swimming team with me, so we have that in common. Mostly we have the same ideas about things, but we sometimes fall out over something small. My best friend is Mina.
I've known her since I was 5 years old. We live next door to each other and we tell each other everything. She's really good fun and very kind.
Recording 10C. You will hear 5 different people talking about a family party. For questions 1 to 5, choose from the list A to F what each speaker says about the party. Use the letters only once. There is 1 extra letter which you do not need to use. 1.
I arrived at the party late because I have to work on Saturdays, and I also got lost because I'd forgotten to bring a map. My brother had rented a large room above a cafe for our mother's 80th birthday, and the cafe made all the food. It was really delicious. The room was great, as it had windows looking over the river. It was very crowded because the whole family came, and there were lots of children, so it wasn't possible to dance or even move around much. I don't think Peter had expected everyone to turn up.
2. I was really looking forward to Granny's birthday. I got there at about 8, which is what the invitation said, but the party had already started. Apparently, most people got there earlier before Granny, so she could have a surprise, but not everyone had been told about that. Some other people arrived even later, when nearly all the food had gone. That was the only problem, really. There wasn't enough of it. The children ate most of it before the adults got near it.
3.
It was my birthday on Saturday, and I had a lovely party organised by my son Peter. There were more than 80 people there. I didn't realise I had such a large family. There were so many children. I've got 4 great-grandchildren and, of course, great-nephews and nieces too, and they were so well behaved. There were also lots of people from my generation, but some of them struggled to get up the 2 flights of stairs to the room. Although it was a wonderful setting, a ground floor room would have been better. Everyone enjoyed it, especially the food, although I didn't manage to eat much.
4.
My sister had a lovely birthday party last Saturday. Everyone dressed up in their best clothes. Well, most people did. Some of the young people didn't bother, but I suppose they don't nowadays. And there were lots of children. In fact, I found them a bit annoying, as they got bored and just rushed around making a lot of noise. They needed a quiet area with a TV or something. Anyway, they had a good time like everyone else. The best thing for me was that I didn't have to think about any of the arrangements, because my son took me there and just told me when to be ready.
5.
My auntie was 80 last weekend, and the whole family was invited to a party. It was down a little side street, so not easy to find, but I took a taxi there, so it wasn't a problem for me. It had a large balcony, so although there were a lot of people, there was plenty of room out there when you needed a breath of air. The invitation didn't say what to wear, so I put on a long dress, and I felt a bit embarrassed. Some people looked as though they'd come straight from the beach. It didn't matter though, and everything went off perfectly.
Recording 11A. Making your first flight.
First of all, don't forget to pack your ticket and your passport in your hand luggage. When you arrive at the check-in desk, your bags will be weighed and put on a conveyor belt. You will be given a boarding pass, allocated a seat and told to go to the departure lounge. To get there, you will pass through passport control and a security check. Look at the departure board in the lounge so you know which gate number you must go to when it's time to board. The cabin crew will direct you to your seat when you board, and you have to fasten your seatbelt before takeoff. You will be served refreshments, and most companies provide an entertainment system with a headset.
Recording 11B. 1.
Well, I commute to London every day, and unfortunately I travel in the rush hour. It all goes okay if everything's running on time, but it's cold waiting on the platform, and sometimes the carriages are very crowded and there aren't enough seats. The fares are expensive too, but my company pays for a season ticket, so that really helps.
2.
The service in my area is quite good. There are always lots of people at the stop waiting to go into town, and I see the same driver most mornings. You pay your fare when you get on, and if you don't know where you're going, he'll call out when you reach your destination. We only get single-deckers around our way, no big double-deckers like you get in London.
3.
It's always packed in the morning, and you have to go down several escalators to get to it. If the platform's empty when you get there, you know you just missed your train. Once you're on, you have to hang on to the rail if you haven't got a seat. Oh, and you have to be careful not to stand too near the sliding doors.
4.
Well, there's a rank right outside the station that I use quite often. Of course, it's quite pricey because you have to pay your fare and give the driver a tip, but there's a meter in every cab, so you know you're being charged the right amount. And if you share with other people, it can actually be quite an inexpensive way of travelling.
Recording 11C.
Well, we're not very organised and we usually make all the arrangements at the last minute. My wife hates flying, so that means we don't go anywhere by plane. Our favourite destination is France, and we usually go by train. We take the Eurostar, which goes under the Channel. It's an excellent service, fast and comfortable. Then we just travel around various cities, looking at places of interest. We really enjoy cultural activities, so we'll go to art exhibitions, stroll around historic buildings, that sort of thing. We usually stay in small family-run hotels, nothing big and luxurious. What do I like best about holidays? Well, seeing places I've never been to before and really having time to explore them, I suppose. I just love it. I really look forward to it.
Well, I like to do things the easy way now I'm working. My sister and I usually go away with a couple of friends. We haven't got a lot of money, but if you book well in advance, you can get some very cheap flights. We often go to Italy. We love the seaside places and the beaches. And we often stay on a campsite. There are some you can go to where the tents are put up for you. There are proper beds and even a fridge. It's really luxurious. We don't do very much. I just like being out of the office and in the fresh air, swimming and sunbathing.
Recording 11D.
Well, I really like camping and sleeping in a tent. My parents always took me for camping holidays when I was young. It's great. You meet lots of other families on the campsite, and there's usually a beach and a swimming pool. The disadvantages, well, on one holiday I got bitten by hundreds of mosquitoes, and it's terrible being in a tent if the weather's bad. If you like cycling, then the second holiday is great. You get fit and you're in the open air all the time. But it's very energetic and not very relaxing for me. Beach holiday. Well, that's great. I love swimming and snorkeling and chatting with friends and having a barbecue on the beach at night. But I like to do a bit of sightseeing too, so I think the last picture is quite a good holiday. If I go to a new country, I like to visit the famous places and do some sightseeing. But a sightseeing holiday can be very tiring, and young people don't always like that sort of thing. They often find it boring. So I prefer to go on a beach holiday and have fun and relax with my friends. I'm studying very hard at the moment, and I also have a job at the weekends, so I need time to just relax and enjoy myself. For my last holiday, I actually went to visit my cousins who live in Sicily. We went to the beach a lot, and I had a great time. They also have a boat, so we went fishing and had picnics and barbecues on the sand.
Recording 12A. 1.
Well, I always like going for a meal with friends. and I'll go to a party if I'm invited. But to be honest, I'm happiest at home. I get in from work quite late, so I just put some music on and cook myself something to eat. I don't watch much television because I've got several hobbies. I paint and draw, which is really relaxing, and I also collect china and porcelain. I go to antique fairs and look in old junk shops and places like that when I get the chance. And I love catching up on recent films too. I've got a big collection of DVDs, so I often watch one of those. I'm certainly never bored.
2.
What do I do after work? Well, I get together with friends mostly. We sometimes go round to someone's flat if there's a big match on, and we cook together or get a takeaway and then sit down and watch the match. After that, we sometimes play cards too. But we'd rather go out if we get the chance. We go clubbing once a week, we go to the cinema, that sort of thing. And in the summer, we get outside. We go to the beach, go swimming and surfing, have a barbecue. I don't spend a lot of time in, but when I am at home, I tend to read a book rather than watch TV. Well, unless there's sport on.
Recording 12B.
Well, to be honest, I like both. I love the cinema from the moment my parents first took me to see a cartoon, and the special effects you get in science fiction films today are amazing. But for me, there's far more atmosphere in the theatre, and every performance the actors give is special, and that's why I like it better. I went to see a fantastic musical the other night at the theatre. It was funny and fast-moving. The audience loved it.
The theatre's great, of course. I've done some acting myself, and being on stage is quite an experience. Giving a performance in front of an audience is amazing. But what I love most is escaping from the world and going into the cinema. I love the darkness and hearing the soundtrack at full volume. Film music is fantastic these days. You see exotic locations on the screen and your imagination takes off.
Recording 12C. 1.
Offering the audience a lively view of the origins of skateboard culture in early 1970s Los Angeles, director Stacy Peralta's film Dogtown and the Z-Boys offers a surprisingly moving and dramatic view of recent history. The film is narrated by actor Sean Penn, who grew up in the neighborhood between Santa Monica and Venice Beach, which was nicknamed Dogtown.
2.
A star-studded cast provides the voices for the cutely drawn prehistoric creatures in this entertaining computer-animated story called Ice Age, which is set 20,000 years ago.
3.
Richard Gere pairs up with Jennifer Lopez in Shall We Dance?, a convincing film about a lawyer whose interest in life is unexpectedly restored by a dance teacher. He first glimpses her from a train window as he travels home from work, and then...
4.
A beautifully shot and very stylish film, The Last Wagon stars Richard Widmark as a white man brought up by Comanche Indians. When the wagon train he is riding with is attacked, he must lead the survivors to safety through the desert.
5.
Fabian Bielinski's excellent film Nine Queens is a complicated tale of cops and robbers. The plot is gripping, and with its constant twists and turns, it keeps the viewer guessing until the very last minute.
6.
This gently amusing film, written by Mark Norman and Tom Stoppard, Shakespeare in Love, tells the story of England's most famous playwright, William Shakespeare, as he tries to win fame in London and gain the love of would-be stage star Viola. It's an extremely funny and very clever blend of fact and fiction.
Recording 13A.
I only moved to this city recently, and I think I'm going to like it. I live on a housing estate in a residential area, which is on the outskirts. It's a mixture of houses and flats, but there's lots of space around the buildings and some lovely parks. I work in an office block on a small industrial estate, which is in a business district only about 10 minutes' drive from where I live. The city centre is about 3 kilometres from my house in the other direction. There's a huge pedestrian precinct there, with every shop you'd ever want. I usually cycle to the city centre because there are cycle lanes everywhere, so it's a really pleasant ride. But it's also easy to drive because there are several multi-storey car parks in the centre. I used to live in a city with a historic centre, which meant it was almost impossible to drive there. Also, because it's surrounded by hills, there isn't much space, and most people live in tower blocks in the suburbs on the edge of the city. My flat had a great view, but you live with other people's noise all the time, and I got tired of that, so I decided to have a change. And the area was a bit run down. It hadn't had any money spent on it for years. My life is easier here.
Recording 13B.
I came along Regent Street and turned left at the traffic lights. You know, at the big crossroads on the High Street. And I was driving along the High Street towards the roundabout on the bypass. I could see someone standing at the pedestrian crossing ahead, so I started to slow down. It was rush hour, so I wasn't driving fast, only about 20 kilometres per hour. You couldn't go any faster. Suddenly, the van in front of me stopped outside a shop. I suppose to deliver something, so I pulled out and overtook him. Just as I got round him, a white Fiat appeared from a side road on the right and went straight into the side of me. It was definitely his fault.
I was driving along the bypass by the river coming up to the big roundabout on the High Street. But there was a terrible traffic jam because a lorry had broken down, so I thought I'd take a shortcut. I turned left just before I got to the roundabout, then I took the first turning on the right so I would come out onto the High Street. When I was halfway down, I realised it was a one-way street and I was going the wrong way. I stopped at the junction and I was trying to get out onto the High Street. The traffic was moving slowly and a van driver stopped to let me in. Then suddenly a black Renault appeared from nowhere and I went into the side of it. It was going so fast the driver didn't see me.
Recording 13C.
What is special about your capital city?
I come from Mexico, and I grew up in Mexico City. My family live in the suburbs, but I go into the center a lot. I love it. There's lots of nightlife, and it's a really exciting place to be. It's a very special place. It's huge and very busy, and that's a disadvantage, of course. I suppose some people get tired of the pollution and traffic, but there are also beautiful parks. The center is really old, and there are some very impressive buildings. We get a lot of tourists because of that. The estate I live on is modern, and it's a bit more peaceful than in the center.
Is there a city you'd like to visit in the future?
I haven't been to Asia, and I hear that Thailand is very beautiful. Bangkok is maybe a bit like Mexico City, very noisy and busy, but exciting, so I'd like to go there. But I'd also like to go to the beach and visit the islands.
Recording 14A. 1.
My favourite kind of food? Well, I love vegetables and seafood. You know, prawns and scallops and things like that. And I like food that's lightly cooked and has a lot of flavour. I also like ginger and spices and a bit of soy sauce, so, of course, I love stir-fries. And I've never been keen on potatoes, so rice and noodles suit me fine.
2.
Well, I'm quite traditional in my tastes. I love meat, but I really like it just roasted or grilled. I'm not keen on fancy sauces. I like everything quite plain, really. I'm a meat and 2 veg man. I like cauliflower and cabbage, peas, that sort of thing. And I absolutely adore roast potatoes. And I like desserts too, things like apple pie or strawberries and cream.
3.
Me? Well, I love fish and chicken cooked in the oven with nice sauces made with herbs and some cheese or tomatoes. And I absolutely adore all kinds of pasta and salad and fruit.
And one of my favourite things is olives. I like the green ones best, stuffed with red peppers.
Recording 14B.
Well, I do the typical English thing and have 3 meals a day. When I'm at home, I'll have a light breakfast of juice and cereal and a cup of coffee. For lunch, I'll usually just have a salad or a sandwich in the summer and some soup and a roll in the winter. We have our main meal in the evening, usually just a main course, some chicken and vegetables, usually potatoes, although we eat quite a lot of rice and pasta too. And then we have some fruit and a yogurt, or sometimes some cheese. We don't have a starter or a proper dessert unless we go out to eat in a restaurant. But we often have a special Sunday lunch, a traditional roast dinner with something like roast beef, Yorkshire pudding, roast potatoes, parsnips, carrots, cabbage. It's great. And then I will make a special dessert like apple pie. The children love that meal.
Recording 14C.
So what do you want to know? Right, well, I'd say I was definitely artistic. I do some painting, but my big interest is pottery. I make a lot of vases and ornaments and sell some of them. And I go to art exhibitions quite a lot, small ones mostly in the local area. I don't get the chance to go to big galleries very much these days. I don't like abstracts very much, and I hate all this stuff with real objects in it. It's a bit of a joke, isn't it? I really like landscapes, but I find portraits interesting too. You can learn a lot about a person by looking carefully at their face and body language. But my favourite picture is Niagara Falls by an American artist called Albert Bierstadt. That's Bierstadt. Not many people have heard of him, but in fact he's my favourite artist. The picture is a landscape, a picture of the waterfall that's so realistic you can almost touch it. When I look at it, I can hear the waterfall and feel the water vapour on my face. The colours are fantastic, and it's absolutely huge, which is what makes it so impressive.
Recording 14D. You will hear an interview with an Australian artist called Anna Roberts. For questions 1 to 10, complete the sentences.
And continuing our series of features on Australian artists, today I'm very pleased to welcome Anna Roberts to the studio. She was born in Hobart, Tasmania, and is already one of Australia's best-known young artists, so we're delighted to have her with us. Welcome to the studio, Anna.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, Anna, from what I've seen, your pictures all have one very important thing in common. Would you like to tell us about what you paint?
Well, I've established a reputation for painting pictures of very remote locations.
Yes, many of them are a long way from towns and roads, aren't they?
Absolutely. So getting to them can be very challenging. I sometimes trek to them on foot, but if that's impossible, I'll travel by plane, provided there's somewhere to land, of course.
So that means you've had a few narrow escapes over the years, does it?
Oh, yes. But it's been worth it. You see, the subject of all my paintings is nature. I want to show just how beautiful it is, so of course I have to experience it myself.
Right. And I've been to several of your exhibitions, and there's certainly nothing abstract about the landscape paintings you do.
Oh no. One art critic told me recently that many of my pictures could be mistaken for photographs because they're so realistic.
I think that's certainly true of the paintings you do of beaches. I love those.
Oh yes, I've painted lots of beaches with the surf beating down on them.
But just recently you've done a new series of pictures using different shades of yellow and orange.
Yes, I wanted to do something completely different. So I've done some paintings of the desert. I've tried to give an impression of the lines in the sand and the heat.
So what is it that makes your pictures unique, do you think?
I'd say it's the way I portray the light. It's not something many other artists do.
And your paintings are very large, aren't they? That's unusual too.
Yes, they're big. and I work on canvas. I find it very hard to use any other surface, like board, though other artists have been very successful with it.
I see. And what type of paint do you use?
Well, I've tried painting in acrylic and watercolours, but I now paint exclusively in oils. Personally, I think it suits my style.
Well, other people obviously think so as well. Your paintings sell well, don't they?
They certainly do. And not just to private individuals. A lot of my pictures are now bought by companies because they consider them to be a good investment.
That's great.
It certainly is.
And your talents don't stop at painting, do they? I believe you also write?
I've written some short stories for children, which I did illustrations for, and a number of my articles about painting have appeared in different magazines.
Do you have plans for any other commercial ventures?
I do. I'm planning to launch a series of cards and calendars this year.
Fantastic. Well, Anna, we wish you every success with that, and thanks for talking to us today. It's been most interesting.
Thank you for asking me. I've really enjoyed it.
Now listen to the interview a second time. Recording 15. 1.
My favourite programme is Big Brother. It's so entertaining to watch a group of strangers being thrown together in a house. I find it quite compelling. I've watched every series.
2.
My favourite programme is The Office. I watch all the repeats and I've got all the DVDs, and they still make me laugh. The acting is absolutely brilliant.
3.
I really love Neighbours. It's on every day during the week at lunchtime, but it's repeated in the evenings. The characters become like your family or good friends because you get to know them so well and you want to know what happens to them. The plots have been really good recently.
Recording 16A. Martha.
My name is Martha, and I've been a widow for 20 years. As a child, I always wanted to have 6 children. I actually had 2, but I have 6 grandchildren and a great-granddaughter who is 3 years old.
Rob.
My name is Rob, and before I'm 30 in a couple of years' time, I want to do some travelling because I didn't have a gap year between school and university.
Jessie.
My name is Jessie, and I've just stopped working because I'm pregnant. The baby's due in March, the day after my 32nd birthday. I've already got a toddler, so it will be hard work.
Callum.
I'm Callum. I'm an only child, and I've got a cousin who's about my age, so we spend quite a lot of time together. But I find him very childish. He still plays with his train set like a kid, and he's going to be 14 soon.
Jim.
I'm Jim, and my children are grown up. I retire in 10 years' time. I don't feel my age, though, and I don't think I look it either.
Recording 16B.
The photos show 2 different classrooms. In the top one, the children are doing a practical lesson. I think they are probably making things out of wood, and they're wearing something to cover their clothes. Each person is doing something different. At the back, a girl's doing something by a machine, but I'm not sure what exactly. In the bottom picture, the students are sitting at desks in rows, and the teacher is standing at the front. He's pointing at someone, probably asking them a question. This classroom is more formal, and the students aren't finding things out for themselves. Both classes have a teacher, but in the top picture, the teacher looks like he is helping the students with their questions. In both pictures, the students look interested in what they're learning, but I think it's better to learn by doing things yourself instead of just sitting and listening.
Recording 17A. 1.
What do you think of this top, Rachel? I want something to wear with this skirt.
Have they got any others, but in a different shade of red? I don't think it goes with that skirt.
No, they're all this shade. But I think you're right. Let's look somewhere else.
2.
Can I help you?
Yes, I've just tried this jacket on, but it's a bit big. Have you got any smaller ones?
What size is it?
It's a medium.
I'm afraid we've sold all the small ones.
3.
How did you get on?
I like the style of the dress, but I think this colour makes me look very pale. I never wear cream. Have you got it in black or pink?
No, it only comes in that colour. I'm sorry.
4.
This shirt is in a sale, isn't it?
Let me see the label. Oh, I'm sorry, no. It's new stock, so it isn't.
So, how much is it?
It's £80. Our sale rail is over here.
Well, I like it, but it's not worth £80. I'll wait until it's in the sale next year.
Recording 17B.
Mum, I got trousers, a jacket, and a shirt to wear to Jason's wedding. I've put them on so you can see.
Good. You need to dress smartly. I'm sorry I couldn't come shopping with you.
So, what do you think?
Well, the jacket's a bit big, but you might grow into it, I suppose.
I've stopped growing, Mum. I couldn't find a smaller one. Anyway, I like it, and I've grown out of my other one. I've had it since I was 12. The trousers are good though, aren't they?
Well, I'm not sure.
I went to loads of shops and tried lots of things on.
Can you take the trousers back?
I can, but I think they're okay.
Well, okay, but take them off now. Go and change into your jeans again before you get them dirty.
I'll hang them up, and I'll decide tomorrow.
Recording 19. You will hear an interview with an Australian sheep farmer called Gina Ellis, who is talking about her work and plans for the future. Listen and choose the best answer for each question, A, B, or C.
And on today's Green Magazine programme, we have Gina Ellis, an Australian sheep farmer. Welcome, Gina.
Thank you.
So, Gina, tell our listeners something about sheep farming in your country.
Well, I'm from New South Wales, where over 30% of sheep farming takes place. But in fact, although it's concentrated in one area, there are large sheep farms right across the country, and it doesn't only go on in the coolest places.
I see. And I believe sheep farmers are experiencing problems at the moment.
Yeah, that's right. There are two, one to do with markets and the other environmental. There's a good market for meat, but the wool industry is struggling. Although Australia still produces about 10% of the world's wool, including nearly half of the top quality merino wool, demand is falling. Consumers often prefer synthetic clothing, like fleeces, which are cheaper than woolen jumpers and equally warm. But the biggest issue for all us farmers is climate change. Drought is causing major water shortages in farming areas, so it's becoming harder to find enough for our animals and crops.
Let's talk about the market problems a bit more. Are you looking for new uses for your wool?
Well, yes. It is very versatile and has been put to so many uses over the centuries. Of course, carpet manufacture still absorbs a high percentage of our product, as it always has, and now we're looking for other domestic uses. The most promising seems to be the idea of using it in buildings as a form of insulation. Companies developing it have found it very effective. And there's also interest in eco-clothing. You know, clothing made from all natural products and produced organically. But it's a specialised market and may turn out to be uneconomic in the end.
So why are you over here in the UK at the moment? Are you looking for solutions to your business problems?
Well, yes. I'm working in cooperation with 10 other large farms to see if we could develop an alternative energy system, producing enough electricity to sell as well as meeting our own needs. Clearly, hydroelectricity isn't for us, and tidal power is out, so I've been looking into ideas for harnessing wind power, using large turbines. Britain has a lot of expertise in that area, so that's why I'm here. Of course, we have potential for solar power, but I don't think we could produce a surplus with that.
That's interesting. What made you consider these options?
Well, if the predictions about global warming are correct, farmers in Australia will have to diversify and look for other sources of income. That's my reason for looking into wind power. Of course, since then I've begun to realise that being self-sufficient and not having to rely entirely on other power sources is attractive, and I'm starting to think in a greener way.
I see. And what do you feel about the advice you've been given?
Well, it's given me a lot of food for thought and taught me the advantages of a more ecologically aware approach to life and work. And now that I have the information, I've worked out that the investment involved is manageable. We should be able to scale down on the amount of animals we raise and still make a living.
Great. So, how would you sum up your feelings about your project?
Well, to my delight, our basic plans are viable and we can press on very optimistically without making any major alterations. And the costs involved do seem to be lower than we'd feared.
Gina, we wish you luck, and thanks for coming in today.
Thank you.
Now listen again. Recording 20A.
Well, I'm mad about crime novels, and I read a lot of them, especially when I'm on a long flight. It makes me think when I read those stories, so it's like doing a crossword. I feel you have to read carefully so you don't miss the clues. I used to like the American writer Charlotte Centrone, but now I feel that all the detail she goes into about dead bodies is really horrible, so I avoid her books now. I'd rather read something by P.D. James. In my opinion, she's a brilliant writer. She does fantastic descriptions of places, and I reckon her characters are realistic. You can sort of get inside their heads. And Inspector Dalgleish is my favourite detective. He's a quiet man, but incredibly clever, and I'm sure he really understands people.
Recording 20B.
Now I'd like you to talk about something together for about 3 minutes. I'm just going to listen. The students in your class are choosing a book to read. Here are the different types of books they can choose. First, talk to each other about what type of book each picture shows and what the story is going to be about. Then decide which book would be the best choice for everyone in your class to read together. You only have about 3 minutes for this. So, once again, don't worry if I stop you, and please speak so that we can hear you. All right?
Okay. Well, I know this first one. It's an old-fashioned story about Sherlock Holmes. A murder story, I think. Crime.
Oh, yes. I saw a film with Sherlock Holmes, and the next one is a science fiction story. You know, space, rockets and things. And this one, well, it has to be a love story, I think. Very romantic.
And I don't know the word for this, but I think it's a story about a phantom?
Yes, a ghost story, I think. And this one is what, a thriller or adventure story? Who are these people running away?
They could be thieves, I suppose, or even the good guys. And there's a plane, so it could be exciting.
Yes, and this last picture is about history, a historical novel. It's set in the past. That's why they're wearing these strange clothes. And there's going to be a fight with swords.
Okay, So we know what the books are. What shall we choose for our class? It has to be something everyone will like.
Well, I like ghost stories, but I think most people prefer adventure stories, thrillers.
Yeah, maybe. I'd rather read the science fiction story, because I like that sort of thing. But do you think the others will like that?
Probably not. And I don't think most people will want to read a love story, do you?
Definitely not. They're always so sentimental, and you always know there's going to be a happy ending.
Okay, so what are we left with? The thriller and the crime novel, the one we think is Sherlock Holmes, and the historical novel. What do you reckon?
In my opinion, the thriller would be best, because most people will like it, and it's modern. But I think the crime novel would be my second choice.
Yes, exactly. I agree with you. I think the thriller is the best choice.
So we can say we have agreed on this?
Definitely. We have decided that the thriller is the best choice for our class. We think nearly everyone will like it.
Recording 20C. Listen to the recording and choose the best answer, A, B or C. You hear the beginning of a radio program. What is the program going to be about? A. Teenage criminals. B. Teenage volunteers. C. Teenage journalists.
As anyone who reads a newspaper knows, young people often get a very bad press these days, with sensational stories about drug and crime problems everywhere. So it's good to be able to present a series of shows with a different focus and look at the positive contribution of young people in our very own area. We'll be looking at a whole range of voluntary work being done by our local youth, from working in the region's hospitals to environmental work. So let's turn first to the health service.
Now listen again.